Does it sound now? Can you hear me now? Sound is there now in YouTube? Okay. So, you didn't hear anything of what I just said already. So I'll just say it again briefly for YouTube's sake. So Radharaman Dev, his appearance day today, most auspicious day in Vrindavan. And Sri Buddha Purnima, also today. And today the Tirabhav of Parameshwari Thakur, who was the fifth Dwadasa Gopal, and he served Nityananda Prabhu. And when Nityananda left this world, he served Janavamata in so many ways, carrying deities from Bengal across to Vrindavan, etc. So many sevas he did for Janavamata. So it's his Tirabhav today, Parameshwari. Very wonderful personality. And the Avirbhav of Srinivas Acharya. Srinivas Acharya was with Shyamananda and Narottam in this generation, like the second generation after the six Goswamis and after Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj. And Srinivas Acharya, he's mostly described in the Bhakti Ratna Kara by Narahari Das. So we can read, practically the whole book is about Srinivas Acharya and his meetings, etc. And his just missing a meeting with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So tremendous personality, Srinivas Acharya Prabhu Ki Jai. And it's also the most wonderful celebration of the Avirbhav of Sri Madhavendra Puripad, who is such an example of the devotional sentiments. He manifested, of course, before Mahaprabhu, because he's like the grandfather guru, the Param Guru of Sachinandan Gaurahari. And his pastimes are beautiful in connection with the Gopal deity in Govardhan, and his collecting the Chandan from Puri and his stay in Remuna. And we remember him for his absolute attractive humility and his total nishta and dedication to his service to the Lord. He would never beg for food. Ayur Chaka, it's called. He took this vow, Ayur Chaka, and he would just wait until he was offered. Otherwise, he wouldn't take. He was so renounced from the material world. He met Lord Nityananda. He was the guru of Advaita Acharya, and Ishvara Puri is his disciple. And Ishvara Puri, of course, is the guru of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's called the Prem Ankur, which means the root of the mood of Bhav. He was the first personality prior to Mahaprabhu to exhibit these Bhavs in a very profound way. So prior to Madhavendra Puri, these ecstatic symptoms had not been demonstrated by different devotees, but Madhavendra Puri was the first to actually demonstrate those extraordinary symptoms of divine love. And Ishvara Puripad, his great disciple, he witnessed that, and he gave those Diksha mantras to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And after Mahaprabhu received those mantras, we see in Mahaprabhu's life, his devotional focus really changed dramatically from being Nimai Pandit to Nimai of Nadia. So today we celebrate the divine appearance day of Madhavendra Puripad. Madhavendra Puripad Ki Jai. I'm not speaking, obviously, extensively on any of these personalities, although I'd love to, but I want to continue with our Caitanya Caritamrta. I've set a big task of trying to complete this Caitanya Caritamrta, and we're up to a very exciting, pivotal part in this Caitanya Caritamrta. We're up to the 4th chapter. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadaliye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatatmane Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Dinamane Shri Chaitanya Manobrishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swagadantikam Priya Sarupe, Daita Sarupe, Prema Sarupe, Sahaja Rupe, Nijana Rupe, Prabhueka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Swagalasa Rupe. Anapita Chirim Chirat Karuna Bharatinokula, Samadapaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam, Haripurata Sundara Dutikadamba Satipita, Sadahradare Kandare Spuratu Vasachinandanaha. Yam pravajantamanapetiam apeti krityam dvaipaino viraha katara ajuhava putreti tam mayatayo taravo binedustam sarvabhutam hridim munimanatoshmi bhaktya vihina aparara lakshay shiptascha karmadi tarangamadye kripamai tvam sharanam prapana prinde namaste charanaravindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Bharadram Tato Mamanastikatina Kapi Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Naivam Charanantikam. I'm first of all offering millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my divine Gurudev Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Asto Tadasdara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our dear most Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Asto Tadasdara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And I'm offering again my full Sastang Dandavats unto the lotus feet of our dear most beloved Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Pad. And to all our illustrious Rupanuga Guru Varga and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vansha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhavevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So, as I just commented, we've come to a most pivotal place in our reading. We've come through first chapter about the Gurus, second chapter is establishing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu absolutely as that supreme personality of Godhead. The third chapter we discuss the external reasons for his manifesting, the loud calling of Advaita Acharya, and to give the holy name of the Lord. So if you were in the state of mind thinking that yes, the holy name of the Lord is the principal reason for the Lord's advent, that's not according to the Caitanya Caritamrta. Mahaprabhu's principal purpose in adventing was absolutely to taste his own prem. Prem ras niryase korite ashvada. This is what's described in the fourth chapter. And the next line from that verse is rag mag, raganuga mag, raganuga bhakti. Rag mag bhakti loke. Loke means all the worlds. Rag mag bhakti loke korite prachan. And he wanted to distribute this Raganuga Bhakti all over the world. He didn't come to distribute Vaidhi Bhakti. It's often said that Advaita Acharya could quite competently have distributed Vaidhi Bhakti. Nityananda Prabhu also, of course. But Mahaprabhu has come, he's Krishna directly, and he's come specifically to taste that prem that Sri Radhika tasted, which was so much higher than the taste that he had experienced in Vrindavan. We've said this many times. Krishna, he experiences up to the stage called Mahabhav in Vrindavan pastimes, in the Rasalila, etc. He's in Mahabhav. But Radhika, she experiences 2 stages higher than that. And even Lalita Sakhi and Vishaka, they experience something of Ruda and Adi-Ruda Mahabhav, which is the extremity of these sattvika bhavs, blazing. Mahabhav is described as 5 Asta Sattvika bhavs fully blazing. And Madanaki Mahabhav, which is what Sri Radhika experiences, are described as 8 Astasat, the full 8. There are 8 Astasatvika bhavs, the 8 elements within the body, all impacted by the potency of this loving energy towards each other. So Sri Radhika experiences a higher taste by tasting the sweetness of Krishna. So this is what this chapter is about specifically. And Krishna is saying, and he's saying, Krishna's Kaviraj is saying in this chapter and in the previous chapter, that Krishna is not enamored by those who consider him to be the master of the universe, the Lord of all creation. Of course, he will honor and reciprocate with that mood, but that is like a Vaikuntha bhav. In Vaikuntha, there are 2.5 rasas, Shantaras and Dasyaras, and a little bit of Sakyaras. If you've heard these things many times before, it's good. And it's always healthy to hear them again and again and again. These are eternal subject matters. And the nature of eternality is that its quality is that it's always increasing, like the love between the divine couple, the love of the servant for the Supreme Lord. It's always eternally increasing. We have no experience of that in this material world. But when we hear these topics again and again and again and again, there's no harm if you've heard it 100 times before. Because each time we hear it, something different will impact the consciousness, because it's an eternal truth. So for us to be immersed in these eternal truths, we need to hear them regularly, repeatedly. So Krishna is described in the 3rd chapter, this beautiful verse, verse 16 of the previous chapter. This Aishwarya Janate Shaba Jagat Mishrita. Aishwarya Stitala Prema Nahi Mora Prita. This is verse 16 of the previous chapter. The 3rd chapter is saying, knowing my opulences, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration. But devotion made feeble means weak, by such reverence does not attract me. And we know in this world, if a man is very famous and well known, then his friendships on that level are very weak. They're just like acquaintances. But perhaps his family, his intimate family relationships are very strong. And they're not looking at him with awe and reverence because they've known him since he was a child, perhaps. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada always gives the example of the High Court judge. When he comes into the assembly, he's the most important man. He has life and death in his hands. Everyone stands up and honors him with great respect. But when that same person goes back to his home, he's rolling around on the floor with his grandson. Completely different relationship. So one is Madhurya Prem and the other is Aishwarya Bhav. So the devotees have to understand the deep, deep significance of this distinction between Madhurya Prem and Aishwarya and the particular dhams where they're enacted. The difference between Mathura, Dwarka and Vrindavan. My Gurudev used to say repeatedly, if you don't know this difference, then you're very much on the neophyte platform. You haven't even come to the Madhyam platform yet. We must quickly come to this Madhyam platform where our focus is clear on our goal, that we are looking to achieve pure Braj Prem, pure Braj Ras for the Lord, because this is the gift I've just described. Rag, Mag, Bhakti Loke, Raganuga Bhakti. This is what he came to give the world. He also came to give all the other rasas simultaneously, but predominantly he's come to give this. Of course, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He can give all rasas. All rasas are there within him, just like all avatars are there within him. He is that Supreme Personality. Ete kamsa kalapamsam, Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam. He is that same Krishna stu Bhagavan. He is that same Bhagavan, that same personality. So all rasas are prominently residing in him, but what he's chosen to taste himself is this particular prem of Vrindavan. Power for the last 48 hours. So Facebook just went down. Oh, then it's come back up again. And I don't know how long YouTube will last. So just be prepared for a dip in the reception of our reading today. So our inverters also went because the power cut was so long. I think that's the dynamic of, the built-in dynamic of Radha Kund. It's considered just a village according to the electrical people, and they don't make it a prominent place to send the electric through to. So now the inverters come on. So I hope the fan sound isn't disturbing. Okay, so we'll begin on page 275, and I just wanted to repeat these 3 verses that we read. We concluded on Friday. So we concluded with, Mother sometimes binds me as her son. She nourishes and protects me, thinking me utterly helpless. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is thought of as being utterly helpless by his mother. This is astonishing. This actually is so astonishing. But this is how Krishna wants to taste the speciality and sweetness of this Madhurya Bhav. How can he taste it if he's considered to be God? He can't taste the sweetness of the relationship. There's only one God. There's not many gods. There's many demigods, but there's only one Supreme Lord. So if he wants to taste a relationship with his devotees, he doesn't want to be seen as God. Otherwise, the relationship can't be heartily. So Facebook keeps going down. It's trying to reconnect. So we'll just stay with YouTube, and you might want to send a message to Facebook to look on YouTube, Rasa Manjari. Okay, text 25. My friends climb on my shoulders in pure friendship, saying, what kind of big man are you? You and I are equal. Okay, so in the example on Friday of when Krishna kills Kamsa and all the cowherd boys come on the stage with him, knowing that they could have also killed Kamsa because they're just the same. Okay, we're going into mobile data. Our Wi-Fi just cut. We're going into mobile data now. Okay, so I'll read text 26 again. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Priya Yadimana Kari Kariya Partsana Veda Stuti Hoite Hare Se Mora Mana. Translation. If my beloved consort reproaches me in a sulky mood that steals my mind from the reverent hymns. Oh, I'll read that again. If my beloved consort reproaches me in a sulky mood, that steals my mind from the reverent hymns of the Vedas. In other words, when Sri Radhika or any of the other manjaris, they go into a sulky man mood, that is more attractive to Krishna than the hymns of the Vedas. These are phenomenal truths that we're hearing. These were never spoken previously. Previous to the advent of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, these astonishing truths were never manifested because Mahaprabhu has never before wanted to taste his own prem. He's never previously wanted to give that Braja prem to the whole world. This is astonishing. And all the praman for this is in this 4th chapter of Adi-lila, most pivotal chapter. So now there's a beautiful purport by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. According to the Upanishads, all living entities are dependent on the supreme living entity, the personality of Godhead. So all living entities are dependent on Krishna, and yet still Krishna wants to have a familial relationship with them in Madhurya. Therefore, he covers his own mood of being that Supreme Lord. He comes as Mother Yashoda's son, etc. As it is said in Katha Upanishad 5.3, Nityo Nityananam, Chaitanas Chaitananam, Eko Bahanam Yo Vidadati Kaman. One eternal living entity supports all the other eternal living entities. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead maintains all the other living entities, they remain subordinate to the Lord. So this is the tattva. All living entities are subordinate to the Supreme Lord, even when joined with him in the reciprocation of loving affairs, yet still he creates an atmosphere where they can appear to control him, just like a mother and father, even like the gopis with their man. They control Krishna to a great degree. Certainly Sri Radhika does. So in tattva vichar, Krishna is the supreme controller. Yet in rasagata, he's not. He's not the supreme controller when he's manifesting his own mood. Understand it deeply, because it's a phenomenal appreciation to understand who is this Supreme Lord. He's a person, and he wants to experience personal, loving relationships. This is astounding. He's never done this previously, and he will never do it again in this day of Lord Brahma. This is a one-off time when he's demonstrating this in his own life, and when he's gifting this through the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In his own life as Krishna in Vrindavan, he didn't teach these topics, he just experienced them. He's called that Lila avatar. But Mahaprabhu is called Prem Purushottam. He's come to actually give the understanding of these pastimes through particularly Rupa Manjari and Sanatan Goswami, all the 6 Goswamis, all his closest associates. Most of his associates that come with Mahaprabhu are all Manjaris. So why are all these Manjaris coming with Mahaprabhu? Because Mahaprabhu wants to give this Manjari Bhav. That's what he's intending to give. That's the gift. That's called a Bhakti Shriyam, the beauty of Krishna's own Bhakti. Krishna's own Bhakti is Radhika, and the beauty of Radhika is within her maidservants. And this is what Mahaprabhu has come to give. It's not an easy topic just to absorb. It takes perhaps a lifetime, or perhaps many years, to deeply, deeply appreciate this. So even as I said just previously, if we've heard it so many times, we still need to go over it again and again. But in the course of exchanging transcendental love of the highest purity, sometimes the subordinate devotee tries to predominate over the predominator. In other words, this living entity who in tattva, as we've just said, this Chaitanas Chaitananam, the living entity is always subordinate to the Supreme Lord. But in certain circumstances, the devotee can become the predominator. We have to appreciate this mood, or this bhav. One who lovingly engages with the Supreme Lord as if he were his mother or father sometimes supersedes the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada had such a task to present these commentaries to fresh, brand new people. This was published, I think, 1975. Devotees were reading these. They had only been devotees for, or practicing the precepts for about 5 or 7 years maximum. So Prabhupada is giving them this highest understanding, with the hope that in some future time they will appreciate it more and more and more. Similarly, his fiancée or lover sometimes supersedes the position of the Lord. But such attempts are exhibitions of the highest love. This is spontaneous love. This is rag mag. This is rag anuga. Only out of pure love does the subordinate lover of the Supreme Personality of Godhead chide him. The Lord, enjoying this chiding, chiding means scolding, takes it very nicely. The Lord likes this reciprocal relationship. It's real. The Lord feels happy in that position. The exhibition of natural love makes such activities very enjoyable. In worship of the Supreme Lord with veneration, there is no manifestation of such natural love because the devotees consider the Lord his superior. And when you consider the Lord as your superior, as we said previously, there is some mood of inferiority of that devotee. There's some sense of lessness. That means he can't fully give his capacity of love that he has within him to the Lord. There's some reservation of respect. I think this is very simple to understand, this precept. Regulative principles in devotional service. Did I read all of that? In worship of the Supreme Lord with veneration, there is no manifestation of such natural love because the devotee considers the Lord his superior. That was from the previous paragraph here. Regulative principles in devotional service are meant for those who have not invoked their natural love of God, but they have to follow those principles to invoke their love of God. Don't think I will throw the principles away and just focus on my development of my natural love for the Lord. That won't work at all, because by following the regulative principles, we become cleansed of all the filth of our material entanglements by showing proper respect to the Lord, by showing proper respect to all the Vaishnavas, by showing proper respect and cleanliness towards the deities, by showing proper respect and honor to his dhams. So these are all regulative principles, showing respect for Ekadashi, showing respect for all the appearance and disappearance days that happen in the 12 months of the year. So this respectful mood is a quality of love, but it will evolve into a much more familial relationship and connection with the Lord. It has to go through this process. Vidimag Ratnadane. What is that verse? Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives very clearly one beautiful verse. Vidimag Ratnadane Swadinata Ratnadane Rag Mag Karna Pravesh. Krishna eventually bestows the jewel of independence unto those persons who strictly adhere to the path of rules and regulations, thus allowing them entrance into the path of spontaneous loving devotion. This is from his Caitanya Caritamrta Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Caitanya Caritamrta. By performing these regulative principles, eventually Krishna himself, because only by mercy can this happen. I can't suddenly decide, oh yes, I'm just going to start treating Krishna very familiarly. It's like with Guru. Guru will try and invite his Shishyas into a sweeter, more familial relationship if he feels they're mature enough. But if those disciples in their dealings with Guru overstep the familiarity with, or breach that relationship with an action that is too familiar, Gurudev will not accept it. I saw this many, many times with my Gurudev. He would make us all feel very wonderful, and we'd be communicating very sweetly about some topics in the evening, late. See, he was sitting on his bed, and maybe 7, 8 devotees were sitting around him, and he was allowing all the disciples to have a very familiar relationship. And then if someone said something that was just over the line, my Gurudev would immediately pull back and recognize, no, this person is not qualified. Try to understand this. It's very subtle. It's not so subtle, actually. I mean, I think a fool can understand it, like we're saying at the beginning of this chapter. But I'm just emphasizing it again and again, because this is the ultimate truth that we're trying to appreciate here. When natural love arises, all regulative methods are surpassed, and pure love is exhibited between the Lord and his devotees. So all regulations and regulative principles are automatically going on. Although on such a platform of love, the devotee sometimes appears to predominate over the Lord or transgresses regulative principles, such dealings are far more advanced than ordinary dealings through regulative principles with awe and veneration. A devotee who is actually free from all designations due to complete attachment in love for the Supreme exhibits spontaneous love for Godhead, which is always superior to the devotion of regulative principles. I think Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami, was taking a gamble writing this to such young devotees. How could they understand this? And they did try to create a more familial place, and Prabhupada was very angry at one point. They created a Gopi Bhav club in Los Angeles, and Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada had to smash that fully because he knew they were not qualified and they were trying to just walk ahead, jump. We cannot jump because we're waiting for the mercy of Krishna. Krishna's mercy will be invoked by our careful following of his precepts. First of all, the sages, they created all these rules and regulations to purify and cleanse the sadhak. And when the sadhak is purified and cleansed, then Krishna's mercy will automatically come in the heart. And then he'll know the real meaning of pure love. But this is what Mahaprabhu has come to initiate. He's open to this. Brajendrananda and Shyamsundar in the Battle of Kurukshetra was not open to that. Neither were previous incarnations. Lord Nrsingadev, we heard yesterday, he was only on the planet in his engaging with the pastimes for a very brief time with Prahlad. And all that time, Prahlad was just offering him vandanam, prayers, etc. And this is his closest disciple. This is his closest sevak. There was not even a smell of this madhurya there. Nrsingadev, he has his Vaikuntha realm. Matsya also. Kurma also. All of these personalities, Buddha also, all of these personalities have their realm in Vaikuntha Loka, where the Lord sits in his Godhead. It's only in Goloka Vrindavan that he comes out of that Godhead. And this is Braja Prem, Braja Ras. The informal language used between lover and beloved is indicative of pure affection. When devotees worship their beloved as the most venerable object, spontaneous loving sentiments are observed to be lacking. A neophyte devotee who follows the Vedic instructions that regulate those who lack pure love of Godhead may superficially seem more exalted than a devotee in spontaneous love of Godhead. A devotee in spontaneous love of Godhead won't be rushing to do all the various activities that make him prominent in the world. He won't be running to the front, perhaps, of the arti ceremonies or doing so many things that will make him appear like a big devotee in the world. And people will see that. Neophyte devotees will think, oh yes, he is a big devotee. But the devotee standing at the back of the crowd, who's just observing Thakurji with melting heart and affection, that person can be more attracted to Krishna than the person who's jumping in the front. Although Prabhupada, of course, he made the comment that the duck that quacks the loudest gets the cracker, gets the bread that you're feeding to the ducks in a lake, the one that's quacking the loudest. So there must be a balance here between the two. We must know what is pure devotional, and that will be most attractive to Guru and these senior Vaishnavas. They will sense that dedicated, respectful attraction, and they will be attracted themselves to that personality. But in fact, such spontaneous pure love is far superior to regulated devotional service. Such pure love of Godhead is always glorious in all respects, more so than reverential devotional service rendered by less affectionate devotees. So this is a very, we could sit and have a conversation about this with many different devotees, because it's a subtle point, and we should contemplate this ourselves personally and try to understand what it's saying here. Your understanding today should increase tomorrow with your practice, and the day after that, etc., etc. So it's a process of understanding. Text 27 and 28. E Shuddha Bhakta Lana Korimu Avatar Kariba Vibhata Vida Abhuta Vihar Vaikuntadye Nahi Lilara Prachara Se Lila Kariba Yate Mura Chamatkara. Translation. Taking these pure devotees with me, I shall descend and sport in various wonderful ways, unknown even in Vaikuntha. I shall broadcast such pastimes by which even I am amazed. This word chamatkara is here used in the Bengali. Chamatkara means wonder, something amazing, something achintya. Chamatkara, astonishing. Purport. Lord Krishna, in the form of Lord Chaitanya, educates his devotees to develop progressively to the stage of pure devotional service. It may take a lifetime. It may take 2 or 3 or 4 lifetimes. Yes, devotional service may manifest in a moment, but what stage and degree of devotional service is that that's manifesting? First, your nishta may be very strong. What does nishta mean? Nishta is a very high stage that we see in the quality of Prahlad. Prahlad demonstrates this nishta the most out of every. Nishta means I cannot draw my mind away from Krishna. This is the meaning of nishta. Nishta means I cannot, that there's nowhere for me to take my mind away from Krishna. This is nishta. And then from nishta will come ruchi, asakti, bhav, etc. But first this stage, there has to be a gradation. So here, I think I'm speaking to all gradations of devotees. There's a few hundred devotees. So everyone, there's many stages of devotees, so I'm trying to include everybody here. Lord Krishna, in the form of Lord Chaitanya, educates his devotees to develop progressively to the stage of pure devotional service. Thus he appears periodically as a devotee to take part in various wonderful activities depicted in his sublime philosophies and teachings. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky, and in all of them the Lord accepts the service rendered by his eternal devotees in a reverential mood. In all the Vaikuntha planets, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is saying all these things very clearly. If someone imagines that he's not actually teaching the same precepts of Mahaprabhu, they're mistaken. If he thinks that Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is only teaching Vaikuntha Bhav, then he's incorrect. What are these purports that we've just read? This is completely focusing on what is Mahaprabhu's highest intention for the living entities. Therefore, Lord Krishna presents his most confidential pastimes as he enjoys them in his transcendental realm. That's in Vrindavan. Such pastimes are so attractive that they attract even the Lord. The Lord himself is attracted, and thus he relishes them in the form of Lord Chaitanya. Mahaprabhu is relishing his pastimes. Of course, Mahaprabhu is described as that Prem Purushottam. Of course, he's relishing his pastimes. Mo Vishaya Gopi Ganare Upati Bhave Yogamaya Karipeki Apana Prabhave. Translation. This is verse 29. The influence of Yogamaya will inspire the gopis with the sentiments that I am their paramour. Now this is very confidential. Again, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj is taking us right out of the box, because Mahaprabhu is described as the most non-conventional, unconventional preacher ever to walk this earth. Unconventional. He's not following what previous preachers and saints exhibited and spoke about. He's going to be describing what is the nature of Parakiya, this Paramour Bhav. If Paramour Bhav is not there, Vaikuntha Ras does not exist. Vaikuntha Ras exists because there is Paramour Bhav. Yogamaya is the name of the internal potency that makes the Lord forget himself and become an object of love for his pure devotee in different transcendental mellows. Yes, different mellows. This Yogamaya potency creates a spiritual sentiment in the minds of the damsels of Braj, by which they think of Lord Krishna as their paramour. We're going to learn that the gopis exhibit the highest quality of love known to man. And also the gopis, they have this quality of this parakiya, or this paramour relationship with the Lord, not marital. They break from their marital status to connect with the Lord. And in this world, and in the material world, any situation like this is considered absolutely abominable. So nothing that we're talking about is in the material world. It's in the spiritual world and the spiritual consciousness. This Yogamaya potency creates a spiritual sentiments in the minds of the damsels of Braj, by which they think of Lord Krishna as their paramour. This sentiment is never to be compared to mundane illicit sexual love. It has nothing to do with sexual psychology, although the pure love of such devotees seems to be sexual. From our mundane position, it appears to be sexual because that's all we know. We don't know the relish of transcendental love, which is so far beyond the childish dealings of mundane sex life. Completely off that platform altogether. Sex life is practically on an animal platform. By following the rules and regulations, we come off the animal platform. We become qualified to understand these pastimes that appear like sexual pastimes. But when we're off that animal platform ourselves by carefully following the rules and regulations, then we can perceive them in their absolute purity. This niravada, na pariyeham niravadya samyujam. Krishna is saying that your activities are spotless, absolutely pure. Naham, this verse, na pariyeham niravadya samyujam. Swa sadhu kritvam vibhudyasyapiva yama bhajan durja geha shrinkala sangvishchaya tadya pratiyatu sadhana. Krishna is saying when he returns to the gopis that your love is spotless, absolutely pure. They are engaging in paramour love, parakiya. And Krishna, the Supreme Lord, if you have faith in the Supreme Lord, he himself is saying this is the purest. So it cannot be condemned. This sentiment is never, I read that. One should know for certain that nothing can exist in this cosmic manifestation that has no real counterpart in the spiritual world. So the counterpart for this gross relationship is the purest form of parakiya in the spiritual world. All material manifestations are emanations of the transcendence. The erotic principles of amorous love reflected in mixed material values are perverted reflections of the reality of spirit, but one cannot understand the reality unless one is sufficiently educated in the spiritual science. And how can that manifest? By carefully following the rules and regulations initially, and then being under guidance of that Rasik Tattvavit Vaishnava who can direct you towards his pure love. I didn't see that last message. Text 30. The messages, by the way, only appear for a few moments on the screen. Text 30. Amiha na janita na jane gopigana dunhara rupa guna dunhar nitya hare mana. Translation. Neither the gopis nor I shall notice this, for our minds will always be entranced by one another's beauty and qualities. Krishna is that most rasik personality, Raso Vaisa. He's the most rasik personality. So he's engaging in these pastimes to taste the highest bliss and pleasure amongst his eternal Shaktis. They're all his Shaktis. Purport. In the spiritual sky, the Vaikuntha planets are predominated by Narayan, Lord Narayan. His devotees have the same features he does, and the exchange of devotion there is on the platform of reverence. Don't forget the title of this chapter. This title of this chapter is the confidential reasons for the Lord's appearance. We are diving in to the real reason why Mahaprabhu has manifested. This is why we're discussing these topics. This is why Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is explaining very, very lucidly, very clearly these precepts. His devotees have the same features he does, and the exchange of devotion there is on the platform of reverence. But above all these Vaikuntha planets is Goloka, or Krishna Loka, where the original personality of Godhead, Krishna, fully manifests his pleasure potency in free, loving affairs. Since the devotees in the material world know almost nothing about these affairs, the Lord desires to show them these affairs, to show these affairs to them. When we hear about the Rasa Lila, this is to attract the conditioned jivas to those Vrindavan pastimes. We'll come to this point in a moment. In Goloka, Go means cow. Goloka, Vrindavan, there is an exchange of love known as Parakiya Ras. It is something like the attraction of a married woman for a man other than her husband. In the material world, this sort of relationship is most abominable because it is a perverted reflection of the Parakiya Rasa in the spiritual world, where it is the highest kind of loving affair. It's the highest kind in the spiritual world because it's focused on Krishna. And it's the lowest type in this world because it's focused on me and my pleasure, regardless of social customs or rules or regulations. You become practically a criminal in the social field by engaging in this Parakiya Rasa in this world. It's abominable. It's condemned. Such feelings between the devotee and the Lord are presented by the influence of Yoga Maya. The Bhagavad Gita states that devotees of the highest grade are under the care of Daivi Maya. Daivi and Yoga Maya are the same. Or Yoga Maya. Mahatmas tu mam parata daivim prakritim ashritaha. 9:13. Those who are actually great souls, Mahatmas, are fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, always engaged in the service of the Lord. They are under the care of Daivi Prakriti or Yoga Maya. We see in the conversation between Shukadev Goswami, who was a completely transcendental to the body altogether. We remember the story when he left home and he came through the lakes and there were naked girls bathing, and they didn't even bother to cover themselves when he came through, because he wasn't seeing with a vision of gender at all. He was completely off that platform altogether. Then when his father came chasing after him, immediately girls covered up. And Vyasadeva, he questions the girls, why did you cover up when I came, but you didn't on a 16-year-old very attractive youth coming through? And they explained, because he didn't see us as women, as pleasurable objects. So here Shukadev Goswami is going to be glorifying this Parakiya Ras. Parikshit Maharaj also so staunch in his rules and regulations, etc., following strictly the codes of dharmic conduct. He's speaking to him about these topics. Why would he speak to him about these topics if there was anything mixed in there? They are of the purest, topmost considerations about the Lord's amorous affairs. They are under the care of Daivi Prakriti or Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya creates a situation in which the devotee is prepared to transgress all regulative principles simply to love Krishna. A devotee naturally does not like to transgress the laws of reverence for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but by the influence of Yoga Maya, he is prepared to do anything to love the Supreme Lord better, to serve the Lord. Like another example, when Krishna manifested a headache in Dwarka, he asked Narad to ask the queens of Dwarka for their foot dust. They all vehemently refused. No, we will go to hell if we take the foot dust, if we give Krishna our foot dust. And then Narad came back to Krishna and told him this, and then Krishna said, you go and ask the gopis of Braj. Immediately they made a mountain of their foot dust and said, quickly, take this to Krishna. And Narad said, aren't you concerned that you be committing some aparad by giving the Lord your own foot dust? And the gopis responded, we don't care if we suffer in hell, as long as Krishna's headache is cured. So think of these pastimes. Those under the spell of the material energy cannot at all appreciate the activities of Yoga Maya, for a conditioned soul can hardly understand the pure reciprocation between the Lord and his devotee. But by executing devotional service under the regulative principles, one can become very highly elevated and then begin to appreciate the dealings of pure love under the management of Yoga Maya by carefully following the principles. But with our focus, this rag pravritti, Vaidhi Bhakti, I described the other day. We are performing Vaidhi Bhakti, but it's with a focus, pravritti. Pravritti means like consideration, with the consideration of waking up that natural, spontaneous attraction to the Lord. So we are performing Vaidhi Bhakti, absolutely. We rise early in the morning, we attend Mangalarti, we follow Ekadashi, we do all these principles. But our focus is on Rag Marg, this Rag Pravritti. Rag Pravritti Vaidhi Bhakti. This is the expression we should understand. In the spiritual loving sentiment induced by the Yogamaya potency, both Lord Sri Krishna and the damsels of Braj forgot themselves in spiritual rapture. By the influence of such forgetfulness, the attractive beauty of the gopis plays a prominent part in the transcendental satisfaction of the Lord, who has nothing to do with mundane sex. We see that beauty is the principal angi of Krishna, beauty. When we think of something beautiful, immediately the mind becomes peaceful. When we think of a beautiful object, when we think of a beautiful landscape, beautiful sunset or a sunrise, etc., we think of beauty. And as soon as we think of beauty, there's an attraction in the mind naturally to beauty. And this is the first quality of Krishna. And then his other qualities come after this. His angis, fame, opulence, strength, etc. Renunciation, vairagya. This comes afterwards, knowledge. But his first is beauty. So Krishna is relishing the beauty of the gopis. Because spiritual love of Godhead is above everything mundane, the gopis superficially seem to transgress the codes of mundane morality. This perpetually puzzles mundane moralists. Therefore, this covering of the mundane moralists is like a protection for Krishna's pastimes. The mundane moralists can't enter into these topics with heart. They're restricted by their so-called morals. They are applying their material morals into the spiritual realm. In the spiritual world, those material morals have no standing. They are material. So that material moralist is banished. His consciousness is covered from entering these spiritual topics. It's wonderful. Everything is naturally arranged and managed by the Lord. These personalities are stopped to enter into these topics of the Rasa Lila. Therefore, Yogamaya acts to cover the Lord and his pastimes. Yes, Yogamaya is covering from the eyes of mundaners, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.25, where the Lord says that he reserves the right to not being exposed to everyone. Yes, he loves everyone, but some he's going to reveal himself to, and others he's not. Just like a father has many sons, he will love them all equally, but some he will love more who are serving him more diligently with love and affection. It's quite natural. The Lord is inclined to this natural mood. This natural mood takes us to the nature of the heart, to the nature what is called our swabhav, our natural attraction to Krishna. It's not something that is put on. It's not artificial in any type of way. It can't be artificial. It won't sustain itself. We might try to artificially pretend to be loving the Lord, but the reality in the core of the heart is what will manifest ultimately. The acts of Yogamaya make it possible for the Lord and the gopis in loving ecstasy to sometimes meet and sometimes separate. This meeting and separation is a vital dynamic of the relationship between Krishna and the gopis. They have 12 hours of the day when they're meeting intimately, and they have 12 hours of the day when they're separated. And the separation will nourish the meeting. In the separation, there's a certain attraction and speciality that is going to excite the greed. Without the greed, this hunger, this desire, then the full-blown beauty and spontaneity of the heart will not manifest. Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati kriyatam yati talabhyate tatra lolyam apimulyam ekalam janma koti sukritya nalabhyate. This one quality of greed is what is necessary for the Raganuga Bhakta. And we see in our own lives personally, if you're hungry and greedy to attain this, you'll be studying this Caitanya Caritamrta day and night. You'll be chanting day and night. You'll be following our great acharyas day and night. This will be the symptom of our greed. These transcendental loving affairs of the Lord are unimaginable to empiricists involved in the impersonal feature of the absolute truth. This impersonal feature, the Brahman feature, there's no sambandha in the Brahman. We've said so many times, this shantaras, it's just between me, and me. My experience, my well-being. Brahma puta prasannatmana sochatina kanchati samare sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhyate param. The last line is the most important here. That only if this is in connection with the Lord, then is there success. But this place of consciousness where there's no more suffering, no more lamentation, yes, it sounds so great to the conditioned suffering jiva. But if you go that route, you incinerate, you annihilate the pure option of the soul to have a loving, natural, spontaneous relationship with Krishna. It's tragic, this road. Therefore, the Lord himself appears before the mundaners to bestow upon them the highest form of spiritual realization and also personally relish its essence. So it's two ways. Krishna is relishing, Mahaprabhu is relishing, and he's also distributing at the same time. This is practically inconceivable. When he's in the Gambhira in Puri, he's tasting the highest nectar, the highest ecstasy of separation. When he escapes out of the Gambhira through 3 huge high walls, somehow he dematerializes himself and gets through 3 high walls, and the devotees, they find him like a turtle, like a tortoise, all his limbs drawn in, tasting the most extreme nectar. And afterwards he reveals to the gopis how he was in trance, and he followed Radha and Krishna into a kunj, and he could hear the jingling of their ankle bells. He could hear the sweet sound of Krishna's flute to begin with. He could hear the sweetness of their conversation. He could smell the fragrance of their bodies. He was in total bliss, observing the loving exchanges between Radha and Krishna, even though he is Krishna himself. How inconceivable is this? If one contemplates with deep faith one will appreciate this. The Lord is so merciful that he himself descends to take the fallen souls back home to the kingdom of God, Godhead, where the erotic principles of Godhead are eternally relished in their real form. Yes, these are only a reflective form here. Distinct from the perverted sexual love so much adored and indulged in by the fallen souls in their diseased condition. This sexuality is so much adored, we say, by the demons. And I said the other day that Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada commented that this sexuality in the material world is a subject that is very attractive to the demons. They are loving videos and movies, etc., about sexuality. I think today pornography is one of the highest viewed channels in the world. This is an indication of their hunger, of their demonic tendency. And this is the desperate condition that the devotee is trying to purify by reflecting his own purity. Even if we just have read one verse of Bhagavatam, even if we just chanted a few rounds, our purity has already begun, and we can influence those degraded souls. We must have full faith in this. And if we're connected with a pure spiritual master, that spiritual master will infuse us with the energy sufficient to purify those very tragically fallen conditioned souls. The reason the Lord displays the Rasa Lila is essentially to induce all the fallen souls to give up their diseased morality and religiosity and to attract them to the kingdom of God to enjoy the reality. A person who actually understands what the Rasa Lila is will certainly hate to indulge in mundane sex life. For the realized soul, hearing the Lord's Rasa Lila through the proper channel will result in complete abstinence from material sexual pleasure. And we remember the pastime in Boston, perhaps 1974, 73 even. There was 40 brahmacharis living in a house, and there was 3 brahmacharinis living in the same house. And springtime came around, and the testonis started to manifest in the males. And the temple president, he wrote to Prabhupada, we have this situation on our hand. We have 40 young men, all just coming out of their teens, and we have 3 young girls here. How are we supposed to relate with each other in this environment? Prabhupada wrote back immediately. You can check this. I think the name of the president was Caitanya Rishi, perhaps. You can ask any of the devotees from the Boston temple, and they'll verify this pastime. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada wrote back immediately saying, you call them all into the temple room, and you immediately read my Rasa Lila pastimes from my Krishna book. Immediately read these pastimes of Rasa Lila. These pastimes of Rasa Lila, they have the potency to purify the contaminated material condition of the heart, of the mind. Parikshit Maharaj was answered by Shukadeva at the very end of the Rasa Lila section. Vikriditam brajavadubi etam cha Vishnu shradanvitu nushunyat artha varenyamya bhaktim param bhagavati pratilabhya karmam hridrogamasab apinoti sacha acharena dira. That this, hearing these pastimes, will immediately bring one to the platform of bhaktim param bhagavati, this topmost platform of bhakti. First we hear Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. First we hear these pastimes. We hear about Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan and their relationship in Vrindavan and Krishna's relationship with the other gopis in Vrindavan and the whole Rasa Lila exchange. First we hear these pastimes from a pure source, Shradanvito Nushrunyad Artha Varenyamya, from the pure Bhagavats. We hear these pastimes. We can read Krishna book, Krishna storybook, Krishna book in the 10th canto. Or you can read directly the 10th canto, especially the commentaries by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. opening that whole Rasa Lila section out. And by hearing these pastimes, then Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Pratilabhya Karamam, this disease of the heart, this Hrid Rogam, this Hrid is heart, Rogam is disease, this disease of the heart will be purified simply by hearing these pastimes. This is the purpose of the Srimad Bhagavatam, to hear these pastimes and purify this disease of the heart, this mundane lust. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the 3rd chapter, 27th verse, I think it is, Karma Esha, Krodha Esha, Raja Guna Samudvaha, Mahashano Mahapapma, Vidi Enam Iha Varinam. This anger born from lust and frustration is the greatest enemy to mankind. So we're hearing this from Bhagavad Gita, and we're hearing this from this Caitanya Caritamrta, and these commentaries and purports by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada are just absolutely exceptional, I think anyway. They're absolutely brilliant, because he's writing to a very new audience. His oldest devotee would have been 7 or 8 years old when he was writing these purports. And he writes so clearly and crystal clear. You can perceive the nuances in between what he's saying. He's supporting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission of giving Rag Marg to the world. This is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's mission. He didn't come to establish Vaidhi Bhakti, but he had to establish that initially to purify those fallen, conditioned souls. And he knew that after they had practiced that for a little while, then they would become more qualified to actually hear these topics of this description of Braja Prem, Braja Ras. But this is the desire of Mahaprabhu, to gift Rag Marg Bhakti Loke. Rag Marg, that means Raganu Bhakti, means devotion, Loke, to the whole world. This is what he wanted to give by his own exemplary example. So Sri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Go Premanandi. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Itai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Chaitanya Caritamrta ki jai, Madhavendra Puri Pad ki jai, Srinivasacharya ki jai, Parameshwari ki jai, Radharaman Dev ki jai, Purnima ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Sachinandan Gaur Hari ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.